I will start. The first question I will leave to CIO because it was just asked to share the presentation, and you're most welcome to share the presentation. There is a PDF version available there that you can quickly share. The first other question is from Irene Chami that asks, the role of research and innovation is critical in this age, and ask my thoughts about it. Absolutely, that's what I was talking about. The leader plays an important role with regard to the whole culture of innovation, the culture of creativity. So you must, within your organization, try to encourage research, try to encourage experimentation, try to encourage innovation. So it is extremely important that you build this within your organization. If we don't do research, if we don't look at where the future is going and where my particular industry is going or where a specific technology is going, we will not survive. So you have to do it. Yes, all the other things are important, but this is extremely important. The second question that I see here is, how can I make a compelling argument internally in your company? We need to be agile. That is an interesting thing, how to make a compelling argument internally. You will see under the extended slides, I do have, there's some, one slide that speaks about the various roles. And the one is that you need to speak to your board, and it's also about who's elected on a board and who's elected on management. But what the first and most important part is you need to educate them. You need them to convince them of the current situation and what is changing and what is happening. And that is the only way that you can get them on board. But it must start with the leader. It must start with the top person. So if you are the CEO, yes, it's good, because then you start with it and you take it to them and you share the vision with them and you inspire them and you encourage them. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If you are not the leader, not a senior leader in this case, not the CEO, for instance, or any of this the C-suite, then what you need to do is to speak to them and sit down with them, because you are still a valuable employee in this regard. The next question is from Kwaka. Thank you for enlightening for the presentation. Yes, speak to COVID-19 crisis in light of fourth industrial revolution. How should leaders best prepare for future similar disruption? Yes, I think COVID-19 is a very typical disruptive type of thing that can happen, which is not, in this case, not technology, not disruption through technology, but it's a disruptive event. And if you listen to what people are saying, is even these disruptive events we will see more and more frequently in today's life. Some years ago, Bill Gates already warned, President Obama warned that the viruses are becoming, people are seeing marked changes in virus behavior, and that it will become a real issue. And I think we will have to be ready. And it's, again, the wonderful thing about, and Laura said it as well, is the wonderful thing about COVID-19 is that it suddenly brought us so many new ways of doing things. Suddenly we realized we don't have to fly. We can do a lot of our work. Yes, we can do it from home, and we can have webinars. And yes, it's not the same as having a cup of coffee with somebody, but we can do a lot of things in this way and still save our planet and still be safe within the COVID-19 environment. But the main thing is there's a lot of innovation that happened, whether it's Ferrari, whether it's Gucci that started to manufacture masks, Louis Vuitton, all of these people, very interesting, who came up with all these technologies. I've heard about Tesla, of Ford, the companies, how they suddenly start making medical equipment. What happened? And I think I think that is extremely important that we do it. So it's a wonderful opportunity, but there's one lesson in this. I personally think we will see more and more. So we better need to restructure our organizations in this regard. Universities, for instance, which is a lot of my background was from a university. Some of them were ready, some of them were not ready. They're not ready to go online. They never thought of it. We think that we will continue in the same way as ever, face to face. The world has changed, and we need to work with this. I hope I answered the questions. You're welcome to ask again if I'm not fair to your question. The next one, Erastus asks, what dangers do we see technology put on global economies, social life and social values of life and doing business? Yes, of course. Technology is never neutral. I think we need to realize this. Neither is technology specifically bad or good, but a technology depends on who is the designer. If it's Microsoft, whether it's Apple, or they have certain intentions, so they have a certain use of technology, and it's quite often driven by profit. Yes, so we have to be careful in how we use technology, and we have to be careful that technology will not replace the values of family, of community, of the core values of your organization. Yes, certainly, we need to be careful for that. But technology can also be used to the benefits. Because if you think of this past Easter weekend, I've got a son in London and another son in Cape Town. I don't live in Cape Town. I live in a small fishing village outside of Cape Town. What we did is, instead of getting together as usual, we had a special Easter meeting via virtual means. It was just as special, just still family, still the same values. So we have to be careful, yes, to answer you, and we have to never become slaves of technology, but we must use it optimally. I'm not saying maximally, but optimally is what we have to do. The next one is Odero asks, Carol Odero asks, does leadership look different if you are managing a team of creatives or a team of non-creative? Yes, yes, it is. It is very different. I think it's a very good question to ask, because what you will see is that at one stage I said talent becomes extremely important, and you will see people nowadays speak about talent management. And talent management just means you need to appoint the right people, innovative and creative people. If you are sitting with a people that cannot think outside of the box, that are not creative, yes, I've put some of my own people that couldn't do that, that have an old way of thinking. I put them through many creative courses. There was some improvement, but some of them I couldn't get to think outside of the box. So you will have, it will be much more difficult. It will tap your energy. You will have to keep on inspiring. You will have to put in more energy. Yes, and you can put them on courses. There are wonderful creativity courses, innovation courses that you can do. People that does it with a small group within your organization. But it is easier to lead people that are creative. The problem with that is that sometimes these people can be so creative and innovative, and that happened to me, that they are running faster than I can run. And then it becomes another problem. So you have to keep them and say, let's have a, just let us just be logic, and let us just keep within certain limits as well, although we can be very creative. But it's a good point, and it's not that easy if you are non-creative. The next question is by Norbert Mutinda. As a transformation and innovative leader, how do you convince the board to increase technological debt, considering the main target for the business would be to recover from the current state? Yeah, that is going to be extremely difficult. I think you've got a very good point there, that in the coming months, and some people say even longer, especially after COVID-19, I think it will be very difficult to tell people the solution is technology, and that we have to spend a lot of money on technology. So we will have to be very, very creative. I'm thinking of an example. My son is a scientist, and his company is selling science experiments to the schools in the UK. And what he did in this lockdown period is to reinvent all the experiments, not to use expensive chemicals anymore, because schools can't afford it anymore. There's now a shortage of money. And he started to use just normal things that anybody would have in their home, cheap things, whether it's a potato or whatever. So with that as example, we have to redesign things, and we will have to use the technology that we have in new ways. It's not always the most expensive and newest technology that we need. And yes, it will be difficult in the times to come, and we will have to do it carefully. But I still think if people see the bigger picture, if you can take people with you, you have a vision where you are going, they will understand it and they will invest. If they believe, if you are able to carry across how important it is for you to do. So the next question, and Laura, you need to tell me when we have to stop, please. Is Trufi Kwaka, thank you for the enlightening session. Okay, thank you. Please speak to COVID. Oh, that one has disappeared again. Okay, I think we've answered that one. Given the significant importance of ICT and technology in modern organizations and governments, yes, it is very important. We have fields like HR, accountancy, medicine, etc. get some sort of regulation and best practice standards. Is South Africa, does ICT have a regulatory body that ensures some sanity in the field and practice? In South Africa, no, ICT does not have a regulatory body for government. You're talking about specifically, you mentioned governments. Yes, they do have a regulatory body, CETA, it's called in South Africa. They control, they have a say in the architecture, and they have a say in what is acquired, all of those things. But in the rest of technology and how it is used, it's not regulated, except if you're starting to talk about certain technologies like 5G, for instance. Then there's a regulatory body, ICASA, which determines what is the output of towers, what is the output of cell phones, how the electronic, the frequency spectrum is used and assigned. That is controlled. Then as soon as it can have a detrimental effect on the health of people, there are certain controls in place, and then there are bodies that are looking that this is adhered to. But otherwise, ICT is not. If I want to implement certain IT or ICT within my company, I'm quite free to do it. We also do not have social media and any of those stringent measures like you have in some countries where that is controlled. Luckily not at the moment in South Africa. The next one is from James Mungai. How do we manage shadow IT as we remain agile? I'm not too sure what, James, what you mean by shadow IT. If you can just maybe explain what you mean, or somebody else. Laura, can you help on that one? I am not too sure what is meant by that, that he says, as we remain agile, how do we manage shadow IT? James, maybe you can just drop another note on the question and answers. Then Benson Minor. Benson Minor said, what's your take on shared services platforms in regard to risks posed and efficiency in service delivery? I think shared services platforms is still one of the major components and still very important. I think that is still the direction in which things are going and very popular. Yes, there are risks, and we need to manage those risks. I don't think we can steer away from shared services, but there are more benefits than the risks imposed on it. I don't think that should be a major issue. There are two more questions. James has answered now, but first Linda. Linda said, how does this impact self-employed people with small businesses? What we've said impacts all businesses, whether you are a large business or a small business. Disruption impacts you. The wonderful thing about small businesses is that you are quite often more agile, and it's much easier for you to change. You don't have lengthy ways of getting decisions through and done. You make it fast and quickly. That's why a lot of people say that small businesses, it's much easier for them to survive. And I think there's a lot of truth in it. So, but it will affect you just as much. Disruption is for all of us. James Mungai is educating me with regard to shadow IT. He says it's a term that refers to information technology applications and infrastructure that are managed and utilized without the knowledge of the enterprise's IT department. Now, James, that is yes, that is always a major problem. Shadow IT, then, indeed. I cannot say too much on that further. That is a major problem. How can we manage ethical issues, people say, about new technologies while creating innovative solutions? I think I will just be short because time is running out now. The ethical issues, that's part of your leadership, is that we didn't speak about it, but ethical leadership, and we have, as leaders, to make sure about the ethical aspects of what we do. Yes, our first, you can say that our first priority is to make money, and that's not a sin in itself, but it must be ethical. So the technology that we use, what do we do behind? And there's a lot of questions. You will remember there was a lot of court cases against the likes of Facebook and others, and now there's a lot of issues about Zoom, and even there's a lot of issues about Telegram. And yes, what is happening? What do you use it for? What is behind the scenes? And I think that's important. Are we still ethical in our business? So it's a very good point that you've made. And then Omar Ronald said, what's the role of a human being in intelligence and automated world where computers will be able to do what humans do better, faster, and disrupting? You're talking about a huge disruption. I agree with you. But what you will see is that we are talking more and more about cobots, that we will work together with robots. Together, that is extremely important, that we become educated, that we know how it works, that we become ready for a world in which robots play a much bigger role. And my point is not that they will totally replace human beings. They will replace certain mundane tasks. Yes, they've done it already in car manufacturing and many things. You'll find dumb robots, not really intelligent ones. Intelligent ones will do a lot of mundane tasks, repetitive tasks. They can make decisions. They can do things on our behalf, but we will work together with them. And that is a new challenge. To work with a robot is not the same as having coffee with your colleague, or some of people have a smoke break. No, it's not the same. So you have to think about that. That will be challenging, and we as leaders have to prepare for that and prepare. Thank you, Laura.
Prof, I don't know if you've answered this one last question from John Washira. He wants to know who is the primary owner of the digital transformation and who runs the strategy and routine.
Yes, a very good question. I had a slide on that, but I removed it because of time. It used to be digital transformation. Used to be up till now, some time ago, the CIO, because it was all about technology. But you will see now it became much more complex. And the general consensus is now that digital transformation, because it's more than just the technology, is really run by the CEO. So the CEO is the person responsible for digital transformation. The CEO remains reported important for the strategy and the various sub-strategies. Of course, he will have a team that is working with him, with the CIO and the others. But still, it is even the strategy and the execution of that strategy, digital transformation strategy, is the CEO.
Okay, so thank you very much, Prof, for your time, and thank you for joining us. I think there's a lot of questions that people still have. I hope your contacts are available in your presentation so that they can get in touch with you directly. Thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for being a very engaging audience. We are seeing so many positive feedback on today's session. We are glad you've appreciated it. We do look forward to seeing you on Thursday, where we have a session on big data. Very interesting. We know data is everything and has been for a while now. But with remote working, it's even more important for us to be able to harness the data that we collect as organizations. Considering we're using a lot of technology now, what do we do with that data? How do we use it back to make business decisions, allocate budgets, resources, and different things? And we will send the recording, just as we've been sending other recordings from the previous webinars. Please make sure you register for the next webinar. Look out for our email. And we do look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Have a good evening.